I just finished watching season 3 of The Mandalorian, and I gotta say, I'm kind of disappointed with how this season turned out. I went into this season with a lot of hype, and yeah, I'll admit that one's kind of on me, but I was really excited to see what the next chapter in Din Djarin's adventure would take us, and I was really pumped up about seeing more Mandalorians this season. Also, there will be a lot of minor spoilers from season 3 and major spoilers from the rest of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. Right off the bat of starting the season, I already had a big issue, and that was on the explanation of why Grogu was back. I already know what the explanation is because I unfortunately watched the Book of Boba Fett, but I know a lot of people didn't, and I don't blame them. But I was really surprised when the season started and there was no given explanation on why Grogu was back. We just started going and it was never brought up. I find this to be a really big problem because when you go from season 2 and the way that ended to the start of season 3 without watching Boba Fett, a lot of the audience is going to be very lost on what's happening. Star Wars pulled a fucking Marvel and basically just told the audience that if they want context for what happened, to go watch their shitty show that no one liked. But luckily for all of you watching this video, you don't have to watch Boba Fett, because I'm going to tell you right now and save you hours of your time. If you remember the ending of season 2, then you'll know that Luke Skywalker shows up and takes Grogu away to go train to be a Jedi. After a while, Din Djarin wants to go visit and give Grogu a gift, but they won't let him because of that Jedi attachment rule that Luke somehow knows about, even though he's spent the entire time in the original trilogy being attached to all of his friends and probably fingering his not yet sister. So Din Djarin gets told to fuck off, and Grogu is made to choose whether he wants to continue his Jedi training with the sister fucker or go hang out with his dad, and he chooses his dad. And he gets a pretty fucking adorable set of chainmail because of it. I really do wish a lot of this was recapped in season 3, considering how much this show just loves to fill time with a bunch of recap from previous episodes. But now we have a season that starts without any explanation of what happened in between seasons, and it really makes the ending of season 2 feel not as special anymore. All of that emotion that I felt because I thought Grogu was leaving has now left me. I did want him to eventually return to Din Djarin, but just not so damn quickly. Wait like a season or two and I would have felt a lot better about that. My next big issue on season 3 is one that I started hearing about early on from IGN specifically, and at first I kind of thought that they were really stupid and didn't really know what they were talking about, but now I'm kind of starting to see what they were talking about, and that's about the direction of the season, or rather the lack of one. I really didn't know where the season was really trying to take me. It was just some random plot points mixed in with a lot of filler. Like, a lot of this season felt like filler, and I know that season 1 and 2 are also filled with a lot of filler, but the difference between those seasons and this one is that the previous two established early on where we were headed. Take baby Yoda to Jedi. So we found ourselves following this bounty hunter tasked with probably the most important mission in his life to try and take this child to someone who can raise him and find his true potential in becoming a proper Jedi. And along the way, we get those filler episodes, but there, they just felt like some stops along the way, but we were still going along the way. This season doesn't have that because that arc of trying to get Grogu to the Jedi ends after season 2, so now we really don't have anywhere to go. I thought I knew where this season was going to go. I kind of thought, oh, this is going to be about Mando trying to regain his place in the Creed after breaking his vow in season 2. That will be an interesting journey. Oh wait, that was already over in like 2 or 3 episodes. Wait, actually, it seems like this season might be about Bo-Katan finding a new home in Mando's Creed after her own Creed left. Oh wait, never mind, that's already over and we're moving forward again and we're already like halfway done through the season now. And it was just kind of that type of story roller coaster throughout most of the season. I will say that it did start finding direction towards the last 2 or 3 episodes, and I was finally starting to see where they wanted to take the season, but it was a little messy along the way, and I feel like a lot of this mess kind of stems from what I mentioned before, Grogu returning. I feel like Grogu should have not returned this season. Part of me thinks that was the original plan, but seeing how insanely popular Baby Yoda is, the showrunners' hands were kind of tied behind their backs and they brought back Grogu as fan service. And that's kind of what it feels like, because for a majority of what is happening in the season, Grogu really isn't that important to the plot. Moff Gideon is gone, so no one is hunting the child. He left Luke, so his Jedi training has basically stopped. So what's left for the little guy to do? Well, for a lot of it, he's just kind of fucking around. He gets more shit to do towards the end, but for a majority of the season, Grogu really doesn't have much of an impact. Even some of the little story arcs I thought they were setting up really didn't go anywhere at all. I think you could have removed him entirely and the season could have pretty much played out the same, or at least have like the same end result. This season is more about the Mandalorians and trying to re-establish themselves, and you can really see that specifically with the character Bo-Katan. She was easily my favorite character of the entire season because she's kind of the only one we have with a lot of story development. She's introduced back into the series after kind of a messy last meeting between her and Din Djarin, and I kind of thought that she was only going to show up for like an episode or two and then fuck off at the end, kind of like how she did for season 2, but to my surprise, she stuck around for almost the entire season, and I'm glad she did because with the amount of time we actually spend with her, this felt like it was her season. She felt like a bigger character than our two main characters, especially Din Djarin, who was really fucking mediocre this season. Honestly, with the way this season flows, it really felt like Bo-Katan was supposed to replace Grogu as Mando's companion, and I honestly would have preferred that a lot more than what we ended up getting. But I will say, in the middle of all this shit talking, she was the better part of this mess of a season, and I do want to see a lot more of her in the future. Another big problem with this season was the lack of any looming threats. This season does have an overall antagonist, kind of, but we really don't get there until close to the end. Moff Gideon was defeated and imprisoned at the end of season 2, and without him, we're kind of left with this void of an antagonist, and I thought that the season was going to build up a new antagonist in the form of this fucking short-haired girl whose name I can't remember, and we end up spending a lot of time establishing her character and her relationship with the Empire and other characters from previous seasons, and we really did not get that at all. Her story kind of ends up amounting to nothing. Well, not really nothing. She does have some pretty major kind of fucked up things, but towards the end, nothing really happens with her, and I don't even think she even meets up with the fucking protagonist at all. It felt like she was being a little hyped up near the beginning of the show, and even got her own episode where she's kind of given a lot more character development, and I was really kind of starting to fuck with that, and then after that episode, we kind of get jack shit from her. Like, she shows up here and there, and we learn what her point is to the entire story, and I was kind of not happy where it ultimately ended up going. Her episode was cool and unique and all, but I don't feel like it really served any purpose for the rest of the season. It might be more important in the future, but nothing really comes immediately from it. We did have another potential antagonist in the form of the Pirate King, whose name I can't remember, but he really didn't feel like a looming threat because he was absent from the story after he was introduced until he finally makes his appearance, only for that arc with him to end that very same episode. At times, this season felt more lenient with some of its plot points for the sake of convenience and fan service, like how Mando wants a specific fucking droid for a very specific task, and we spend a whole lot of time trying to get that droid for him to ultimately not use it and use some other fucking droid that was pawned off to him, or how there's a lot of celebrity guests, especially in one episode where it actually became kind of distracting. Like, even Sasha Banks comes back and was actually allowed to speak this season. Twice. This is a season that should have worked a lot better than it actually did. It was a season that was supposed to be more about the Mandalorians and what they want and how they're going to get it. Not even like one or two Mandalorians, but a whole fucking lot of them. It is literally a wet dream of mine. This should have been the best season of The Mandalorian, but it ended up being the worst season so far, and I was left feeling very disappointed.